Welcome. Thank you for joining us for Hartford NEXT Neighborhood Training Institute series, It's Our City, episode number 2. This episode features the City of Hartford's Chief Executive Officer, the legislative arm of city government, and the official and legal legislative records management teams. I'm Marion Griffin, board co-chair of Hartford NEXT, Inc. Hartford NEXT is a coalition of Hartford's neighborhood revitalization zones, or NRZs as they're known, and the City of Hartford. We are a collective voice of Hartford residents and stakeholders working to strengthen and grow our community. Our purpose is to bring people together to listen, encourage, negotiate, educate, and lead, and as well as to facilitate inclusion and innovation to help to make changes within our city to improve the quality of life. Hartford NEXT Communication and Education Programming, which is called our Neighborhood Training Institute, conducts seminars, forums, workshops, both informal and formal training for Hartford residents, so there's more to come. Today, I'd like to introduce today's host, Janine McMahon, who is the chair of Asylum Hill Neighborhood Association and a Hartford NEXT board member. Janine, thank you for hosting today, and welcome to our guests.
Thank you, Marion. Good morning and welcome, everyone. As Marion mentioned, I am Janine McMahon, chair of the Asylum Hill Neighborhood Association and a board member of Hartford NEXT. And I want to just say thank you for everyone here in the audience and those of you who are tuning in online. Your involvement in these CVs is the primary goal for these discussions. I will initially ask our guests a number of questions, and we will begin taking questions from our in-person audience following the discussion. And then for those of you watching on YouTube, you can put your questions in the YouTube comments, and I will include those questions at the appropriate time. Hartford NEXT is a coalition of Hartford's 13 neighborhood revitalization zones, NRZs for short, and the City of Hartford. It was formed in 1997 as Hartford 2000, and its purpose is to bring our diverse NRZs together for common good of the residents of Hartford. I'm also the ANA began as the Asylum Hill Problem-Solving Committee in 1995 with funding from a Justice Department grant to Hartford. ANA, like other NRZs, is a quintessentially unique body of stakeholders and resident representatives with a passion and commitment to improve the quality of life of the families in the Asylum Hill neighborhood. Our neighborhood borders the South End, Frog Hollow, Parkville, and the West End. It is known for its historical significance, featuring landmarks associated with figures such as Mark Twain and Harriet Beecher Stowe. Like most of Hartford, we have a diverse population with a mix of homeowners, tenants, multifamily dwellings, some high-rise buildings, churches, businesses, and social services, including the Village and the YWCA. Our monthly meetings are held the first Monday of every month, and we welcome your participation in person and virtually. If you transition to our screen, you will see QR codes that takes you to our LinkedIn, Facebook, and our Asylum Hill Association websites, and you have access to the Zoom links and other events that are hosted in the Asylum Hill neighborhood. Today's episode of It's Our City will focus on the Mayor's office with Mayor Arulampalam, the Court of Common Council with Council President Shirley Surgeon, and the Town and City Clerk's office represented by Assistant Town and City Clerk Eric Lusa. Welcome Mayor, Shirley, and Eric to today's discussion. We have an enthusiastic audience member this morning. All right, Mayor Arunan, as you approach your 10-month mark in office, what have been the biggest accomplishments and challenges you've faced so far? And how has these early experiences shaped your priorities for moving Hartford forward?
Yeah, thank you for that. First of all, thank you for putting together this series. I think it's so important to allow residents to kind of peek in the door of City Hall to understand how City Hall works and understand that this is the people's building, this is the people's house, and so we're really excited to open up our doors literally, and also, you know, to those watching through Hartford Public for Access TV. You know, I'll talk about overarching goals of this administration, then specific policy priorities after that. You know, in a broad sense, I've talked about trying to connect our residents together, trying to connect us together as a city, and then connecting people to government. And those are both things that I really need everybody in this room, everybody involved with Hartford Next, everybody involved with the NRZs, everybody involved in your communities in so many different ways to be working together on. You know, we are too small of a city to view ourselves within our silos as different from each other. We need each other to be able to be a strong, thriving city. We need to advocate for each other. We need a strong North End and South End and West End and downtown. We need to think of ourselves as one city. And we've worked to try to, you know, bridge that divide and to think of ourselves as one whole, and then to make this mayor's office bleed more into the neighborhoods, into communities. And so I'll speak to that in a moment. Specifically in terms of the needs of our city, there are three kind of issues that I think I campaigned on, I talked about during the transition, that we've tried to push forward in these first few months. One is housing. That is such an urgent need, and in the whole spectrum of housing, from the unhoused population to rental housing to home ownership. I think we need to work on every part of that spectrum at the same time to build a real housing ecosystem that works for all of our residents. Community-based economic development that reaches into both our downtown and into our neighborhoods. And the last is on youth, on our children, and that's something that is near and dear to my heart, and that I think we've made some gains on. So I'll go through those in order. I don't know how much time I have too. I don't want to speak for too long.
So thank you.
Maybe I'll pause now.
Definitely
Yeah.
diving into a lot of these priority areas that you've mentioned. So thank you.
Yeah.
Shirley.
Yes.
Could you briefly share a little bit about your background and explain the role of the City Council and describe how you became Council President?
Right. Thank you very much for doing this, and thank you for actually doing this series, because I really, always been one of my main objective, working in the community, has always been getting residents involved. So how did I get involved? I have been a member of the NRZ in Upper Albany for decades. And so that's how I really started getting involved. I also got involved in the Democratic Town Committee process, on the electoral process, and how do we, elect our local representative. So it's been over 40 years I've been involved. Originally, I am from Jamaica, moved to Connecticut in the 70s, went to school here, went to college, and I've always advocated for the only way to change our community is by being involved, that's number one, and number two, policy change, how we govern ourselves. So that to me has been a priority for me. And that's how I've actually got involved from an activist standpoint to actually running for office, which I really never had no intention of doing. But basically, you can change things from the outside, being an activist and being involved in your community. But if you really want to make change, is by becoming an elected official and actually being on the inside, where you can change the policy more than anything else. So that's how I got involved.
I'm so excited to hear that. As an immigrant myself, it's just really exciting to see the diverse representation here and just to hear from fellow immigrants. So thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to dive a little bit more into
Sure.
what you do and what the council represents. And I'm going to take it over to Eric. Eric, welcome. Thank you for being here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and provide an overview of the town clerk's key responsibilities, including how the office serves the residents of this town?
Sure. Thank you so much for that question. I want to thank Hartford Next for putting together these great community forums. This is where local government really meets the road. That being said, if we take a look at the town clerk's office from a 30,000-foot perspective, we're kind of broken out in multiple silos. So the first silo would be our vital records division, birth records, marriage licenses. We have a core operations unit, which will take care of business licenses, anytime you buy or sell a property, liquor permits, stuff of that nature. We have a seasonal election division that is just getting ramped up currently for this time of year. And then last but not least, we have our ongoing relationship and administrative support for the city council office and various functions and priorities that are set forth there.
Awesome, thank you, Eric. And we're gonna dive a little bit into how City Council, the Mayor's office, and the Town Clerk office aligns and collaborate to move key priorities forward. So, Mayor Arulampalam. The Hartford Business Journal in November 2023 announced that you named 22 community leaders as heads of 11 policy committees that would guide your transition into the mayor's office in Hartford. The role of the transition committees was to hear from the public and other experts about the policies that your administration would consider. You stated that you hope to create short-term goals to accomplish in the first year, in addition to long-term goals. When will your office publicize the committee's team's recommendations, and which recommendations from the teams have been selected for implementation?
It would take a while for me to go through all of the recommendations that have been implemented already. We got a lot of incredible feedback from our transition teams. It engaged literally hundreds of people, many of them Hartford residents, stakeholders, experts in various fields, in these really broad conversations. And a lot of those conversations, there were people doing a lot of the same work in the city, in workforce development or in housing or in economic development, who said, I'd never been brought together in this table, never sat across from some of these people at this table. And I think it really showed what is possible if we collaborate. And so we've actually continued on. My initial thought was that this would be a few people who would write a report and there'd be some sort of formalized process. A lot of these transition teams have continued on past the transition, and that's actually one of the recommendations we got from a lot of these teams. We're bringing, we have a major announcement with one of the teams this week. In fact, we're bringing them together and having a press conference about one of their big proposal that we are going to be implementing. But it has informed everything we've done in this office. I know a lot of folks who are on Hartford NEXT or in our NRZs were on the civic engagement team. Some of the best practices, and these might not be things that validate a press release, but some of the best practices that were talked about in community meetings and trying to increase language access in community meetings and thinking about the timing of those community meetings to make sure that more people can be involved. The office hours that I've been hosting monthly in different neighborhoods around the city to give everybody a chance to sit down with me and talk about their priorities with me, which I think has been different. Typically mayors do these town halls, which are good and important to get information out, but some of the loudest voices then get all of the interaction, and we found by dispersing that and giving everybody some time, you just get a much broader sense of kind of how communities are feeling about various policies, what's on people's minds. I get information that I wouldn't otherwise get if I wasn't having one-on-one conversations. And so, but more than anything, I think what that process taught me is that bringing people together to the table and empowering more individuals in the conversation instead of having one-off conversations with people at the table and then making the decision behind closed doors in the mayor's office, I think it leads to a better result because you have more voices at the table directly talking to each other. And it's a lesson that we took into Council President has been side by side with me in dealing with some of the education struggles we've had, and a lot of cities really try to sidestep education issues in urban areas because it's politically tenuous to jump in on issues like that. And we thought, what if we tried to bring together every party to one table? And so we've have representatives from the superintendent's cabinet, along with representatives from the teachers union, along with the Board of Ed, along with a council representative and two state representatives, and one of our big funders, all at the table together. talking about these issues. And that Blue Ribbon Commission has really put all of the potential solutions to our schools on the table. There's been no sacred cows in that conversation, and had real conversations, tough conversations sometimes with each other about what it would look like, but is committed to working together once those recommendations come out in the same direction, pushing in the same direction to try to implement it. And I think, is a core of what we believe in this administration, which is that there's so much more power and also wisdom in larger groups at the table coming together and giving their voices.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. There's definitely power in numbers. I hope our audience is listening to this. And I love this de-siloing approach to doing things and this collaborative effort to move these issues forward and come to some type of solution. I also love the equitable approach in reaching the community, right? You're going into the community and speaking with others who might not necessarily be that loud voice at the public hearings or even know that these public hearings are happening, and then also hosting the public hearing meetings as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Shirley.
Yes.
So there's an organizational chart that was shared with our audience, and I think it was on screen in the beginning. And can you share with us how the City Council, the Mayor's Office, and the Town Clerk interacts and works together?
Okay. So the organizational chart, basically, let's start with the council.
Yeah.
So there are 9 members of our council. More than anything else, it's important to realize there is a minority representation and also a majority representation politically for the council members. There are 6 Democrats and 3 working family members. No, sorry, 2 working family and 1 Hartford party. Oh, John is gonna kill me. All right, so 6 Democrats, 2 working family, and 1 member from the Hartford party, and that makes it 3 minorities and 6 majority members of the party. And that also comes from your registration and legislation, and that's how those numbers were actually really put together. So the 9 council members are policymakers for the city of Hartford. The council basically, I think the most important thing the council does is the budget. The mayor actually works with the administration, actually day-to-day operation of the city, and the mayor submits a recommended budget to the council. The council's job is to actually review that information, speak with also the actual departments, and then approved a budget that governs and how we spend our money in the city of Hartford. An example, I think, our household, I get a paycheck of $1,000 a month. I have to pay rent of $600. I have to buy food. I have to also pay light, telephone. That's what we do. We have a budget of $620 million, and we have to decide with the mayor relationship and how we spend that $620 million. We have to also pay rent, for our buildings, maintain our buildings. We also have to pay we also have to pay personnel. So all that come together with the mayor recommendation. Council delve into a little bit more. One of the things the council can do, they cannot add to the budget because our budget is actually really tied to our revenue and how much money we actually collect in the city. But we can also shift monies around in the budget. If the mayor says, and as an example, Mayor, if you said, we don't need 10 more people in license and inspection. The council has the prerogative in saying, no, Mayor, we are gonna put 11 people. So that's one of the main responsibility of the council, and that's sort of the relationship, because the mayor's office has I call it the administration, has the oversight and the running of the day-to-day operation of the city, but the council is as a legislative body sets the policy of where we want to, where the city, the vision of the city, where do we want to go in the city.
Right.
And now the town clerk's office is under the office of the council. We made that change in the last charter revision, which is about a year ago. And because the town clerk's office works so personally with the city council, the town clerk office is the keeper of the records for the city of Hartford. That's how I describe you guys, the keeper of the records. And so all the records that the council pass, all the information that's in the budget, the town clerk's office is in charge of making sure those records is kept for prosperity for the future. So we can go back 100 years from now and take a look of those records. And also because the town clerk's office worked so partnership with the council, we felt over about a year ago that that office should be brought under the council's office and be part of a partnership in making their jobs much more easier.
Thank you so much for sharing
I know
that.
that's a lot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I promise I'll be quick. And that was a great kind of summary of how a bill becomes a law in the city of Hartford.
Oh my gosh.
But you know, we've got a charter that's kind of the constitution of the city, and the charter governs everything we do. And then we've got a set of ordinances that have been passed by council, and historically going back to the beginning, and so we work together on that. Shirley's exactly right. The biggest thing we do is the budget, because a budget is a moral document of what we believe. And governments, you know, sometimes the fight is that an executive and a legislative branch don't agree on the problems. I think what's been great about the working relationship is we all agree on the same issues that we need to solve, and then we all bring our ideas on how to solve those issues. And so council will have conversations with our office about, you know, quality of life is a huge issue, but how do we solve it? Is it that we need to change up the way in which we do street sweeping? Do we need more zoning enforcement officers? Is it that we need to go after certain landlords and make examples out of them? And then what does that process look like? And so council will have ideas, and we'll sit down and we'll bring in our departments and talk about, you know, if we were to add 2 positions to this division, what would it actually do? What would the impact be? And because of that, they're always having conversations in the community. I think we've got really engaged council members, and we're really fortunate to have really engaged council members who are always listening. You know, and so sometimes I get feedback on my own, but a council member will say, well, you know, on such and such street, there's a real issue, and you guys haven't sent enforcement officers there to take a look at it, and so that working the relationship and having that open door is really important to making sure that we do the job, even though council isn't directing the people who do the job day to day, that policy, you know, idea and those morals are kind of flowing through into this administration.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Eric, as it relates to policy and ordinance implementation, once the mayor and the city council approves new laws and ordinances, the town clerk is responsible for officially recording and disseminating those regulations to the public and other city departments, right? How does your office ensure that public records and documents are accessible and transparent to residents?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Maybe about 3 years ago during COVID, the department was able to acquire a grant from Facebook for north of $700,000. So using some of those funds for various initiatives, one of them being we were able to purchase a council form of management software called iCompass. So in the past, prior to COVID, a lot of these documents were just housed internally in the town clerk's office. So there wasn't a lot of documents online, and people had a tough time finding these things. You know, with the grant funds, we were able to digitize everything that needs to be digitized. We set up subscriber lists with 7,000 emails on there. So anytime there is a public hearing, anytime there is a council meeting, a committee meeting, you name it, we could hit the 7,000 individuals here in the city. And you know, we try to keep the communication going back and forth. You know, the more transparent we can be, the more people know what we're working on. I think it's better for the community, it's better for the administration, it's better for council. So we really just try to keep those communication lines open and execute whatever we're given.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And then my last question, and this is for any one of you to respond to, how exactly do residents in the community contribute to conversations about the budget and decisions about the budget?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Will I take that? And I'll add my 2 cents to it.
Yeah, well, we have built into the process 2 public hearings. One right after I submit the budget and one right before council votes on it. And so both were really well attended this year. We listened to feedback, and everybody who was there could come up and talk about their priority issues. But we also, I think all of us try to have our own processes to try to elicit feedback from members of the community. And our office tends to do a lot more of those office hours around the time of the budget. We try to be as out there as we can in the community. I think council members do too, and really try to take feedback in as many ways as we can.
Thank you. Shirley?
So during the budget process, after the mayor submitted, as the mayor said, we do have 2 public hearings on the budget. Also, during the budget process, we also have a public hearing where, right here in the chambers, where the council, all 9 council members, would actually interview and talk to department heads and follow up on what was actually submitted. But most importantly, I think it's the 2 public hearings. I know the document is about this thick, okay? And very few of our residents is gonna read this big, thick document more than anything else. But one of the things at the public hearing we do is we provide a PowerPoint presentation, okay? And we kind of gave a summary and overview of the budget, so from different departments, and it would make it a little bit easier for the residents to actually take a look at it. Also, one of the things, Mayor, you did this year, which I thought was really genius, is if you put in online, okay, your taxes? Yeah. Okay, you will see how much. So I paid I don't remember how much I paid, but I paid like about $4,500 in taxes every year. Online, you can see how that $4,500 is decimated. You can see, 10% going to education, 5% going to public safety, and that's just an example. But it's a great way for the community to actually see how their monies, the taxes, their monies are spent, and where we decide, working with the mayor, of how that money is, sent out there. So one of the things, it's very difficult to talk to 125,000 residents throughout the city, and that's why it's so important we have organizations like your organization right now to actually get this information out to the residents. One of the things the residents also do, which I really, really hope they actually participate more in, during the council meetings, there are 9 members here. You don't see 9 members all the time together, twice a month, right here. And we're also, and one of the great things also since COVID, thanks to the town clerk's office, we are also able to virtually do our meetings. And so the first council meeting of each month, the residents have an opportunity to either come in person, like you guys are here, and talk to us, or they can send their question in to our Zoom committee meetings. But we have an hour dedicated to the residents every month to listen, and there is no specific subject they want to talk about. If they want to talk to us and come and give us a compliment and say, we're doing a good job, I'm like, yes, come. I hope more people right? But it's a great opportunity for residents, either if you can't come in person, you can also do it electronically by Zoom and tell us your issues or concern or compliment us in what we're doing. So we are really trying very hard. The mayor said he goes out and he does his monthly meeting. A lot of the council members and their staff, one of the things is, we don't have to, let me end by saying that the council is a part-time position. Most council members have full-time jobs. So they do have staff which will go to different committee meetings for them, represent the council. So therefore, if we can't make it, a committee staff person is there, and they can also bring the information back to us. So that is really important. And as Eric talked about the new way of getting involved, one of the things which I love about this program, Eric, is that if you want to file a complaint against the city, you don't have to do it in person anymore. You know, I think one of the greatest things that came out of COVID is how we're utilizing technology to make our lives more efficient. So go on our city's website. You can talk to the mayor's office. You can talk to the council. You don't have to do it in person. You can do it electronically. All our emails addresses are there. All our telephone numbers are there. You know, this is a partnership. So let me stop preaching and say this, okay? This is a partnership. This is not about a one-sided, you elected us, but you have to talk to us.
Yes.
And tell us what your issues and concerns are. So we're here for you, but you need to talk to us.
Yeah. I absolutely love that you mentioned that, because on the organizational chart, we have residents at the top.
Yes.
Then we have the mayor's office,
Absolutely.
right? And it shows the
Yes.
flow. And I just want to remind residents that you are in charge of what happens in your
Absolutely.
community. When our elected officials are campaigning, sharing their insights and things that they're going to do, it's our responsibility to hold them accountable to the things that they say they're going to do. Think about it as a job application and an interview, right? They're going through their election process. It's their interview process.
Yeah.
And we get to determine who gets the job. And if you think of this as a job, if they're not performing, then that boss or that leader or person in charge then has to go to that person that they brought into that position and connect with them and find out where that disconnect is happening, and to Shirley's point, partner to fix things and improve things. So I encourage us to think of it in that light and understand that your voice matters, your vote matters, and you are in charge of what happens in your community.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank you for sharing that. So I'm gonna ask some questions around the NRZ and the relationship, the NRZs and the city. I'll start with you first, Mayor Arunan. I'm pretty sure your cabinet fully understands Public Act 95H 340, which established the neighborhood revitalization process. Have you set specific goals for each cabinet member to collaborate effectively with NRZs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, each department is so different in the way in which they're run. But what I have emphasized with all of our directors is that one of the performance goals, one of the performance metrics, is going to be the way in which the residents are made aware of the work being done at City Hall and the conversation back and forth. And if you are a director in the City of Hartford and residents don't know who you are, regardless of department, that's going to be an issue in this administration. And so it's difficult to set an across-the-board metric on what that looks like, because Health and Human Services look so different from Development Services, look so different from, ES&T or the police, and each department interacts differently with each specific NRZ.
Right.
But that collaboration should be across the board in every neighborhood, not just the neighborhoods in which you might have a relationship with that head of that NRZ, and that is something that we will talk about when we review performance.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm continuing to hear this lens of equity in the way that you approach your work, so thank you so much. I hear diversity and braiding of the way that you collaborate with our NRZs, and I so appreciate that. Shirley, the strategic planning process for neighborhood revitalization zones, NRZs, requires collaboration between the community and the City Council for successful implementation. Can you explain the role of the City Council in this process and how you ensure the voices of residents are heard during the planning and approval phases?
Let me say that I was actively involved in my NRZ strategic planning for the Upper Albany. So the City of Hartford, through their budget process, had hired a consultant to work with the community organizations on their strategic planning. I believe 3 or 4 NRZs have already done their strategic plan. They actually do the plan, which also goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. and also come to council. That strategic plan is actually what the residents of the neighborhood is saying, that this is what I want to see developed economically in my neighborhood. So that public act that was passed in the legislation that was passed is really for economic development in the community. So, for example, if we have another grocery store, another business that's coming into the neighborhood, and the residents does not want to see that business there. Their job is to come back to the city when this business apply for a permit to become a business in that neighborhood. And if it's not part of their strategic plan of what they would like to see economic development done in the neighborhood, then it should be rejected by the city. Because again, as you said, that it's the organizational chart starts with the residents, and at each NRZ, the majority of the members of the NRZ are the residents of the city, of that neighborhood. And you do also have other stakeholders who are part of the NRZ. But I know in Upper Albany, 51% of the board members are residents in Upper Albany. So again, the strategic plan is developed by the residents in that NRZ neighborhood. It's sent to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They adopt it, and it also comes to council for adoption. And when it is adopted, it also goes, and let me also sidestep by saying also, the City of Hartford have a overall development plan for the entire city. Okay, so also the strategic plan is part of that overall development of the entire city plan. So that's how the relationship is developed with the city.
Thank you so much. And then Eric, what's your relationship between the neighborhood revitalization zones and your office, and how they interact with your functions?
Sure, thank you. I think one of the first things that stands out was maybe about 2 budget cycles ago between the mayor's office and city council, and this initiative was actually spearheaded by Council President Surgeon, was a allocation of funds was going to be distributed to all the local NRZs. So what would happen is money was freed up on the budget side during the public hearing. You know, the government, the local government heard the needs of the NRZs, and who knows better the needs of the NRZs than the people on there. So to execute some of those strategic plans, about $4,000 or $5,000 was allocated per NRZ, assuming they handed in their membership, their strategic initiatives, and various other items. But an initiative like that is where the money can go down to the grassroots of the community. I think that showcases one of our ideal situations working with the community.
Awesome.
And don't forget that the NRZ has to file with the town clerk's office.
Correct, yeah, we want all your minutes, so. Can't give them out if we don't have them, so.
Right, again, don't forget the town clerk's office is the keeper of records.
Yeah.
And the NRZ is a legislative body that's adopted by the state and adopted by the city. And so your records need to be sent to the town clerk's office.
Thank you so much. And then the town clerk also helps to facilitate the public hearings.
Yes.
Thank you. Well,
Yes,
so I'm going to pause for a second
Sure.
to see if there are any questions from our audience at this time. Do you have a question? Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, so I'm colleague Jackson. I'm a Asylum Hill resident and getting into the ANA NRZ. I just had, so you guys spoke about a little bit about the budget planning. Can you speak to, because I think it's going on right now, where does that Hartford Decides program fall into that planning? Because I know that's a great opportunity for the residents as well.
Yeah, so the Hartford Decides has a line item in our budget that we actually increased this year to give more, I think close to doubled the amount of money to Hartford Decides. So we cut out a piece of our budget to put into the Hartford Decides bucket. It's an assigned fund at the city, and then Hartford Decides as an organization goes through their own process of identifying the projects that they vote on, and then they identify the winning projects, and then they work with our city departments, usually DPW, and we've also in this administration tried to get DPW involved in that process earlier, because there's some backlog of Hartford-sized projects that for various reasons logistically in the past haven't worked with DPW, so we try to get that input in the process earlier so that people aren't voting on a project that won't be able to be implemented. But we've worked to not just keep that in the budget, but to expand it, and council has been very supportive of that.
Let me also add that, again, this is another opportunity for the residents
Exactly.
to actually, let us know if a special project in that neighborhood that needs to be done.
Right.
Okay, so you identify the project, but then you also have to work with the city. And as the mayor said, the Public Works Department, because most of the projects that are identified, need some infrastructure. And our Public Works Department is the one who provides that infrastructure and to actually make this project, take place, happen. So when the mayor said that the Public Works Department is now actually, more involved in the beginning. So therefore, you don't may put something on the wish list,
Yep.
okay, and it's not possible. So at
the
least if
moment.
Public Works is there, and with the mayor and the council, in their budget, there's a line item for this, we'll say, is it possible or is it not possible? Not saying we don't want to say to the resident no,
Right.
okay? But let's make sure that when you make a decision of a project that you're going to do, we want to make sure it's successful.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Thank
Cool.
you. I knew a little bit about it, but it was good to have that, brought up, especially during this
Great.
conversation. So thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your
I'll add one quick thing. That's one of two opportunities to do a project like that in your neighborhood. We also have the Love Your Block grants.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
And that's, we just, had the new round of funding for that. So, two opportunities. If you have a project in your neighborhood or really in the city that you want to see happen, those are two great opportunities to create direct action yourself.
And Love Your Block has the grant ranges of what, $2,500 to $25,000.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So projects big and small, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll also share that they invite residents to review the proposals for the Love Your Block grant. And so residents always have that ability to lend voice to the decisions that are made around those dollars as well. Any other questions? Joyce.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joyce Bosco, and I live behind the rocks for now. Let's see, how old is my daughter? 41. So for 40 years, I've lived there. One of the unexpected or unwanted consequences of school choice is that the decline of the neighborhoods kind of happen, where there's not that sense of belonging and connectedness within neighborhoods. I know that wasn't an intended consequence, but it did happen. So I'm wondering what you're thinking. I know about the Love Your Block initiatives, but I've been around the country, and some of the communities do like the longest table, where they put people outside and they bring everybody who can attend to those meetings, because unfortunately not everybody can come to a community meeting. Not everybody, if they have children, they childcare, and I ran a family center for many years in Hartford, and many of the parents were working 2 and 3 jobs, so it's like to get them to engage, even though they are passionate and do care. So I think I'm wondering if there's other ways you're thinking about to build community within the neighborhoods to replace that connectedness we had when our children went to school together.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I think, the schools for so long were the centers of communities. And one of the things we did this last summer was we opened up night gyms at 6 locations across the city. And the key goal was to get young folks off our streets into safe spaces. And really, I think it really worked. We had over 1,000 kids involved in that, in those night gyms. It got kids active, it got them engaged in sports and arts and crafts, and really great activities. I think one of the other benefits is that neighborhood kids were out there each night playing with each other in the neighborhoods. You know, I think about our kids, and my kids. Two of my kids are the ones creating a little bit of a ruckus. Or at least one of my kids creating a little bit of a ruckus here this morning. But we've got 5 kids, and our street's got a ton of kids, and they all go to different schools. And there's 2 other families that go to the same school as my kids, but the other families we don't know as well, and it's harder to play on streets than it used to be, I think, for a variety of reasons. And there are things we're trying to do about speeding cars and everything else, but our hope is that eventually we can expand out this night gym program, and that wherever kids are going during the day, that they're coming back to their neighborhood school to do recreation activities in the evenings, and those families are still engaging with each other. In general, a lot of our kind of parent friend groups, community friend groups, are through Hartford sports and recreation activities, and we really want to expand those out. So that's one thing. We have also turned what was previously called Domingo into now Love Your Block parties, and by the way, the last one is on Berry Square tomorrow. And that is, part of the idea behind that is sort of that longest table idea, that we hope that everybody in that neighborhood comes out on that day, spends that Sunday appreciating the businesses in their neighborhood, and creating a sense of community. The last thing, and I know I didn't fully get to kind of some of the policy ideas, but one of the things we're working on developing, and Shirley and I have talked a lot about this, is a Heartlift-like program, the thing that really brought a lot of businesses into Pratt Street, specifically for our neighborhoods, to revitalize, starting with 6 commercial corridors around the neighborhoods, to bring small businesses in, to allow for a cluster of 4 or 5 small businesses, so that each neighborhood can feel a little bit more like a neighborhood center, a city center. That we feel like kind of small towns in each of our neighborhoods, so that small businesses can thrive again in our neighborhoods, and hopefully Hartford residents can build businesses and build wealth and be part of that revitalization, but also be so that our neighborhoods start feeling like neighborhood centers again, so they start feeling like communities again. So not just amalgamations of housing and then a downtown that's growing, that we have these points of growth within our neighborhoods. And my hope is that we can have coffee shops in neighborhoods again. I think Shirley and I talk about this all the time. Shirley loves coffee. I love coffee. But north of Dunkin' Donuts Park, there's not a single coffee shop aside from Dunkin' and McDonald's. And we should have coffee shops. We should have sit-down restaurants in our neighborhoods. We should have bookstores, and I don't know if bookstores even exist anymore. But we should have retail again in our neighborhoods, and I think that would create a sense of community, because it creates meeting spots for us to be in our neighborhoods. You don't have to come downtown to get a cup of coffee, or have a sit-down meal, or go out for date night.
Let me also add, several years ago, right before I even ran for council, is that one of the things we did in our block watch in Upper Albany, we used to do like a movie night. So we used to work with the recreation department, and it helps with the speeding on the streets, because we kind of close the street down. We got those big white balloon things, and they blow up, and everybody brought their grill out on the street, and that's what we used to do. And we had a sense of the community, because one of the things that has happened is that, we don't know who lives in our streets anymore. Okay, and I love the block parties, but I like a little bit more intimate detail, because I live in a neighborhood which is predominantly, a lot of apartments, or 2 or 3 family homes, and so it's not owner occupied. And so it is really great, this year a new family moves in, okay? And so it's great to actually see, so by doing those little street movie nights, everybody bring the grill out, and it's food, and everybody, watch a movie, the kids are there. So I'm hoping I can work with the recreation division to actually get back to that one day again, because it didn't cost a lot. All right, I know the mayor has to run, right?
Oh, wait. Can I ask a question, please? I've been standing here. He's got an 11 o'clock meeting he has to go to.
and it's 10:59.
Wow.
Well, let me see if I can help you.
You know what? Okay. That sounds perfect. I hope you can help me.
Thank you so much, Mayor Arunan, for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Okay, so I was just going to ask the question, what do you advise for residents who feel that they do not have a voice? We have this process, we have, the great saying that says that the residents are first, the residents are the ones who are leading everything. However, to be honest, in actuality, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like it's always just the powers that be. It seems like the residents are not heard. There's several, little campaigns happening, and the residents are not being heard. For instance, one that I know of and was personal to me was for Hartford's next police chief. They stated that the residents, he wants the residents to have a say. I know there was a petition going around, there was letters of endorsements for one particular individual, Lieutenant Paul West, but it seems like it's being fall flat. And also, what I have noticed on the other side is a rather elaborate campaign to sell us someone. If you look at the timeline from March until now, even up to last week when it was stated that the reducing crime was because of very recent initiatives, such as the walk beats, it kind of was like a slap in the face because, of course, 2 months of walk beats in 3 areas did not reduce crime. And then there was a lack of transparency because in actuality, crime has been reduced nationwide. And this is a federal FBI fact. So when there's lack of transparency in that area and you have community members galvanizing towards one person and no one's listening, but instead we're being sold and told who we should get and who we want, when the mayor said we want to hear from the people, how do you navigate that so the people could still feel empowered and encouraged and going forward feel like they're being listened to?
A couple of things. I talked about once a month, the first council meeting of each month. We have, I call it open mic.
Yes, I believe some members have gone to that too.
And anybody can come and speak on their issue. Okay? The mayor said he does go out and he does do different meetings. So I believe, that the residents are the ones who drive this. Now, every resident in the city have different opinions of where they want to go and what they want to see happen. So when you gave an example of the police department and the process, okay? Let me say from a council perspective, number one, I haven't seen a posting as yet for a police chief, okay? I believe that should be coming pretty soon, all right? And I, as a council member, the process is the posting, you post for a position, people apply for this position. The mayor has a process, which he will go through.
Yes.
And then the recommendation comes to council.
Well,
Okay?
I understand that. So there is a process, and this is an appointment. However, there was a community aspect piece that was in there where in March, the mayor is quoted stating that he wants the community to be involved. So, and then the community stepped up. They had petitions, local businesses wrote letters, and actually police chiefs from across the nation wrote letters in support of Lieutenant Paul West. So if you have so much things going towards one person and all this passion, and this individual is from Hartford, why would we be denied, Hartford's own? And so I understand what you're saying, but I'm telling you the reality of it. So how does a resident get past that and still feel encouraged to keep on going when they're not being listened to?
Now, again, one of the things I will say, and that is, all the residents have different points of view, and it's a matter of taking in everyone's information before a decision is made. So it's not a matter of 100 people here or 5 people here, okay? And I'm gonna speak for myself as a council member. I listen to everyone's opinion, and then I make my decision,
Okay.
on which way I would like to go. So it's not a matter of getting, all this community input. It's not a matter of having all the references from, everyone else throughout the city on, I think you should do this, okay? Because let's be fair, okay? Another resident may have a different opinion than yours,
Yes.
or a different opinion from this group.
But they have not voiced
But
it
let
to
me
the point
finish,
with petitions.
okay? So I have to listen to everyone's opinion and then make the best decision that I believe should be made on behalf of the city.
Okay.
You may disagree with me, all right, when the decision is made. Your job is, should I decide to run for re-election, is then to say, this is not what the person I would like to see represent me. Because elections have consequence. And so if I make a decision and I cannot defend the decision I make on behalf of what I believe, from listening to everyone, then your job as a resident, come the next election, is to say, I cannot vote and put that person back in office because that person I don't believe. So that is the responsibility, I believe,
Yes.
and the process that is going to be made.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
that. Okay.
Thank you for your question. David?
Good afternoon. I want to go back to economic development. I have a question about that. I agree with you, Council President Surgeon, that the primary function of NRZs is economic development, neighborhood revitalization.
Yeah.
But we're led by a lot of mostly volunteers.
Yes.
Even in ANA, where we have some staffing, we're all led by volunteers, so our capacity is limited. We want to do economic development. ANA is positioning itself to do economic development in Asylum Hill, but we need help from the city. So how can the city help NRZs do economic development in their communities?
Well, when I first ran for office 4 years ago, I think that the city I believe, was the first time any funds were put in the budget for the NRZ, because I know as a volunteer for the NRZ over the last 40 years, I realized it's all volunteer, and we needed assistance for secretarial assistance in getting information to let people know when our meetings are. So I thought, was it 3,000 or 4,000?
I think
About 4,000 for all the 12 or so NRZ was the first time we have ever done so in the entire city. I know it's not a lot of funds. Okay, we also increased the funds for Hartford NEXT. It's a line item in the budget now, where Hartford NEXT has, we're given, and don't quote me in the monies because I can't remember exactly, but they were able to hire staffing. So I totally agree with you that if we want to strengthen the NRZs, that initial stipend that was given may need to change. But guess what? I haven't heard from the NRZs from I did this 4 years ago. I mean, seriously. So I'm going to be true. One of the things you'll find out is that, no one asked me to do this when I was first elected. But because I've been an NRZ member for over 30 years, and I know how it was like, we want to do a little Christmas party. We want to provide snacks for the NRZ meetings. And it all came out of the NRZ's volunteers' pocket. So this $4,000 that was sent to the NRZ 4 years ago, and it was a small stipend, but the NRZ has not come back to the council and says, we have used it to do da-da-da-da-da, okay? We would like to next step to go, this is our next step, to strengthen our NRZ. So talk to us. Again, this is a partnership. I can't help you all if you don't talk to us. Now, if we don't do it because of our budget constraints, that's a whole different idea. That's a whole different conversation, right? But at least you can come and make your lobbying efforts to the council members to say, this is an organization in the community that needs to be strengthened, because through the NRZs, the city administration is able to provide information to the residents. All right?
Yes, that's like basically an unpaid service in many ways.
Pardon?
It's an unpaid service in many ways.
Yeah.
So, yes, I agree. But I'm also talking about like what can development services do. I think development services could partner, this might be more a comment for the mayor, but I think development services could do a much better job partnering with the NRZs.
Yeah.
Same way they partner with developers all over the city
Yeah.
to do various projects whenever they want to do them. But when the NRZ comes talking, they don't really want to talk too much to us. So I think that's an issue.
Again, you know, because of a past of being a NRZ member, one of the things I realized is that small businesses kind of propped up in the community, you know, and I didn't know. So one of the things I worked with development services was to provide that when license and inspections or any business that apply with the city, okay, that information is supposed to be given to the NRZ.
Right.
Is that being done?
It's better now. It's not as good
it's
as
better?
It's better.
Okay, well.
It's not 100% though yet.
It's an initiative that we've never had before as NRZ
True.
members, okay? So this is a work in progress,
I agree.
okay? And, you know, I'm going to be honest, you know, give us a little bit of credit, the council and the mayor, to say we did something good, and we can get better at it, all right? We have,
Okay, thank you.
you know.
All right, thank you for your questions, David. Do you have a question?
No, I have a statement.
Oh, sure.
When dealing with the budget, you know, all these things seem to be, this is just my perspective, first of all.
Sure.
I'm Larry Williams, I represent Upper Albany NRZ, and I'm a member of Hartford NEXT. And the thing is, all these things that you have to deal with in compiling your budget are interrelated. And I think that the council should be aware that like things like public safety, you know, license and inspection, you know, they all spur investment in the neighborhood. If you let go lax on one end, developers don't want to come into a neighborhood that's ridden with crime or is in decay. So my issue is, who implements those things? You put the budget in for certain individuals, certain departments, but I don't see much implementation like in the neighborhoods. You know, my street, I may take care of my property, my neighbor may not.
Yeah.
You know, so in the past, you know, you have license inspection, or you have people on this payroll, city payroll, that drive down the same streets that I drive down. How come they don't report this back to the city? You got the police driving down the same streets that I drive down. How come they don't? They're on the payroll. We're volunteers. We're seeing things and we're reporting things, but who's implementing it? So my suggestion is that somebody in one of those departments, you put out the notices, you make the legislation, the mayor, whatever he does, he sets up the budget, which you have to look over. Keep in mind that some of those things are interrelated. So you can't cut out the inspectors and expect the neighborhood to thrive. That's all I want to do is make that statement.
Thank you for this, for sharing that. That's really important to hear.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say this on the record because I got up and ran behind the mayor because I wanted to say this in front of him, but I said it to him. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Bridget Prince, Hartford native, community activist. And what I wanted to say, the comment you made about the community and about the schools, that was spot on. Because, you know, when we were growing up, we knew everyone in the community because we all went to school together, we all went to church together, we all did everything we did together. Just recently, there was 1,000 tickets that the mayor and the city of Hartford gave away to the community to attend the football game that's happening today at Rensselaer Field. Soccer too? Okay.
Oh.
So for me, that means a lot because when these kids have an opportunity to be exposed to something that they are not normally exposed to, and they're going to these arenas and to these games, and they're seeing players who may become role models who are from the same demographic, the same environment, the same lifestyle that these kids are in right now. It's impactful. You know, growing up in the projects and having these opportunities presented changed my walk. So I wanted to say that to the mayor because I know other communities got tickets. Some of them chose to sell the tickets or do whatever they wanted to do with the tickets, but to actually give these kids an opportunity. I know that there's a lot of things going on, you know, neighborhoods that are no longer neighborhoods, things that's happening in the school system, but to be able to sit there and say, I've taken some steps, I've opened up some of the schools, we're giving these opportunities. I know when I was growing up, 13 years old, my first job was working for the town of East Hartford. My cousin's first jobs were working for City Hall in Hartford, Connecticut. So to be able to look and say, okay, let me do this to kind of turn this trend. You know, I'm from the North End. There's a lot of problems. The village is no longer the village. I want to say that too. So there are responsibilities that we also have to accept as our, you know, ourselves and say, okay, we're part of this problem. It's just not the city. It isn't. It's just not the politicians. We have to take responsibility for the life that we are now living. And I wanted to say that and put it on the record. Thank you.
No, thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, access and opportunity for our youth is so important and critical to their growth and development, and for them making like really informed decisions, great decisions, and for them to succeed and thrive. So I appreciate you
So
sharing
the mayor
that
said he has
reflection.
UConn players that are coming and going to Parker. I'm working for ESPN.
Yeah.
I was there last night at Mohegan Sun with the Connecticut Sun. The diversity officer says, hey, let's do some things. I said, where we're going to do it is in Hartford.
Yeah.
I said, that's where we're going to do this. So I'm going to get a call from him on Monday. I'm going to get in touch with you, Council President.
Yes, ma'am.
Hopefully they could do some things, have scholarships. So this is what I was just saying to the mayor. You know, just, you know, every little bit matters. This matters.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say also that, you know, by having a new department, recreation and sports department, that is going to open up a great opportunity for children and for other programs.
Right.
You know, I've heard from people, an NFL player that grew up in Hartford, Bloomfield, who wants to do a flag football for girls. You know, so there is some great opportunity for youth that I know the city and the mayor's office, you know, would love to work with anyone who would like to work with our youth and give them an opportunity.
Right.
Because once you give a young person opportunity,
they need to be exposed.
Absolutely.
They need to see that there's something beyond standing on that corner.
Yeah.
You know, they need to see how to create, you know, educational opportunities, economic opportunities. They need to see that. So what you're doing, what you're exposing them to right now is critical.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, they need to see that somebody cares. So I appreciate that. Anything I can do.
Thank
I'm
you so
gonna do
much.
it.
Yeah,
us
and
know.
I'd love to connect with you as well because I'd love to do some work with our tribal partners. So
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. So,
Anything else you want to talk about before we have to wrap up?
so I realize there's no questions online at this point. I did have a question around education that I think is really important.
I'll try.
Yeah, for both of you actually. And so I really wanted the mayor to speak to this recent incident of this young lady who shared that she graduated high school without having that ability to read. And I think she's now in UConn, if I'm not mistaken, and there's like, there's a current,
Oh, okay.
yeah, she has it seems as if she might be taking some legal action, and she said that Hartford Public School has failed her. And so I really wanted to know like what the efforts are to collaborate with the superintendent and the school board to address the educational system to ensure that every child receives a quality education that they need to succeed. But for you, Council President, I'd love to know like what role the City Council would play in improving the opportunities for Hartford's youth, to our friend's point, and how the city can better support young people.
Okay. So one of the things I think a lot of the residents does not understand is that the way our charter is written.
Okay.
There is a Board of Education members that are appointed and run for office. The Board of Education members governs the board. The City Council and the mayor governs the city. And I think that's one distinction that we really need to point out. Also, okay, the 5 members that are out of the 9-member Board of Education are appointed by the mayor and the council. 4 members run for office. Again, you know, that Board of Education governs the board. And so a little bit of information. This year, in this mayor's, we appointed 5 new board members that was recommended by the mayor, okay? Because we do understand that there are issues within our educational system. The mayor put together a blue ribbon committee to actually look under the hood to see how we can address this issue. And there's also legislation at the state level that we need to address. So through this committee, which is going to give us some talking points, some avenue what we need to address, okay? So I'm going to wait for the Blue Ribbon Committee to come back and say, you know, but after looking under the hood, these are the things that we need to do. And the 5 members that are appointed by the council and the mayor, we'll bring them in and say, you know, this is where we need to do, what we need to look at. So we do know we have some failings. We do know we have some financial issues, okay? But we have we've only been in office for 10 months. Yeah. And so we are beginning to work on those issues. You know, I know a lot of people, our residents, they're impatient. I understand that. Because when you have lived like this for so long, you want to see change, and you want to see change now. And I understand, you know, because I also live here, and I also want to see the change, and that's one of the reasons why I ran for office. But work with us, you know, to make those changes. And this is not lip service or any excuse, okay? But the changes that we have to make, it takes a little bit of time to happen. But if you have a blueprint of where you want to see those changes happening, you know, give us a chance to make those changes. And we need to also communicate with you the changes and whatever we need to implement. So again, it's a partnership, what we need to do and what you need to tell us.
Thank you for sharing, Shirley. Joyce, you have a question? Do you want to stand at the podium?
This is more like about the Blue Ribbon panel, if parents are a part of that and perhaps some students. Because I don't know. I didn't hear him mention that. And I would say, I would recommend that you have a parent voice in that.
I'm going to be honest with you. From my memory recollection, I know there is a council person that is appointed because we wanted us to make sure we'll be around the table. The majority of the appointments came from the mayor. I know there's Board of Education members there. I cannot answer that question because I know who they are, but I can't remember if there is any parent or any student. That's what I'm sure we can get back with you and let you know who those members are and when the meetings happens, because I'm sure you would, you know, if you have time, would like to listen in.
Thank
So
you so
if
much.
you give us that, you can get a hold of her.
Yeah.
We can get back with you with that information.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Joyce. That was my question also. Thank you, Joyce. Eric, you mentioned the council implementing, I think it's iFocus is the new?
iCompass.
iCompass is the new software. So for individuals interested in learning about what happened in past council meetings around education or around housing or other related topics of choice, what's the best process for them to go online and do that research? And how far back are those records since that's just recently implemented?
Sure. Probably go back about 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
Starting in 2020-ish, a lot of the videos are uploaded for various committees, subcommittees, council meetings, public hearings. So not only can you look at the minutes of the meetings and the agendas, you can actually go to the video, see what was said. So I think that's very helpful in the legislative process when the two offices, the mayor's office and the council's office, meet together. And we keep going back to the budget, and I think, a lot of the input, we work for the residents, this is your tax dollars at work. So please come out to the budget hearings and give your input because, that budget document will set the priorities for the next 12 months, 18 months down the road.
Can I just also add that, again, the council meets twice a month, except for July and August. We only meet once a month, for the summer. We have committee meetings that meets every month. All right, let me try to reframe this. So an item is on the agenda for the council, okay? For example, the city is going to accept a couple $100,000 from the federal government or from the state. That item goes to the Health and Human Service Committee or any committees, public safety, planning and zoning committee. And so therefore, at the committee level is where the actual work really happens, where the actual information, the department head comes and speaks on that issue. So, and all that information is carried live on our cable access television station. So again, you don't need to be coming down to City Hall, even though we'd like to see you in person, but you can stay from home or on your iPhone or phones and watch the committee level meetings. That's where the actual real work happens, is at that committee level. And if you can't watch it at that time, you can always go back. It's on YouTube. If it's on, there are so many apps. It's on Apple, Roku apps. All these apps, you can go back and watch this information. So if, again, somebody told me this morning that people watch television when they have a chance to watch television. So therefore, all this information is held somewhere, very accessible, that you can go back and watch this information, watch this committee level. What happens with the public safety? The police department, the fire department comes and give an update every month. So if you can't watch it at the time, you can always go back on YouTube and watch this information at your convenience.
Thank you so much. And I'll ask one last question before we wrap, if that's okay?
Sure.
I
know.
I know. So there's a housing shortage, a housing crisis, not just in Hartford or the state, but across the country. And housing affordability is a major issue here in Hartford.
Yeah.
So what initiatives is the City Council supporting to address the housing crisis and promote home ownership, particularly for low-income residents?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of my priorities from running for office, is home ownership. Again, it is a national and it's a state issue. We have, over the last 20 or 30 years, we had a lot of properties in the city that wasn't occupied. Over the last 10 years, we have now, people are coming and renovating and occupying, these properties. At the same time, though, our residents can't afford $2,000 a month for rent. That's, inconceivable, okay? So we have to work with our state delegation and how we are going to take a look at what legislation can help us, working with landlords and property owners, and keeping the price off, rents down. But it's something which is going to take not a city. We cannot, zoning regulation-wise, it's going to take federal and state legislation to actually start looking at it. But in the meantime, though, one of the things the city does have, because when you have only 26% of our properties are homeowners, and over 70% of our cities are rental, we have to also get more actively involved in providing opportunities for residents to buy these properties, okay? We have programs in the city where up to $40,000 a low-income individual can apply for property assistance to buy a property. We have those funds, okay? But this community need to take opportunity to actually search for this, and not search, but information is right there. Last year alone, we gave the council and the mayor in last administration gave a $10,000 or $20,000 grants for city employees to buy a property in the city. Okay? We also did, and the program ran out, and that's one of the things the mayor is looking to do, is getting some additional funds, because we also gave to our seniors, as our demographic change in the city, a $10,000 grant to do a little homeowner fix-up at home. Those funds ran out. So we are looking to work with the state delegation to get some additional funds into the city, so we can actually start promoting some of those programs. Homeownership is important, because it certainly makes sure when you own your property, you have this wealth you've been developing. So that's a passion for me, is home ownership.
Yeah, I totally agree. And home ownership, property ownership, and rentals, they go it's so hand in hand, right? Because one of the key, issues why rents are increased, it relates to taxes, right? The taxes that the property owners, have to adhere to and pay. And taxes have gone up incrementally and increasingly. I'm a homeowner in Hartford, and I've experienced a $700 tax increase since 2020. And I've only had my property for 4 years, and my taxes have increased by $700. And so when I look at it on the flip side, if I was a landlord or a property owner who was renting to someone has to absorb some of that cost. And so that drives the rents up. And so there's a lot of things that interplay. I think, I don't remember who said it earlier, but there are things that interplay, and a lot of people that need to come to the table to address these issues.
All right, so let's talk about, let me just answer that question regarding increase in taxes. Number one, by state statute, the city of Hartford and every town in the state has to do a revaluation of their property every 5 years, okay? Now, market force increase the prices of our property. So the market force increased the prices of our property, and so what happened when reval happened, okay, because your revaluation of your property is revaluing at the price, the market rate of your property at 70%, 33%. So that is what happened every 5 years. Okay, when you have a reval, your property value increase, okay? But let me say, over the last 2 years' budget, our mill rate has been decreased. And if the mill rate didn't get decreased over the last 2 budget, not this budget, last 2 budget before, and when unfortunately COVID happened, the prices went up, we would have seen a larger increase in our property taxes. Our next reval is going to be 25, okay? And if our market value of our properties keep going up, we also have to take a look at, from a policy side of it, how we're going to mitigate those, okay? But those are market information that we have to take a look at. But when you say your taxes went up over the last, 4 or 5 years, your value of your property went up also, okay? And the reval happened at the same time. And believe me, I heard lots of complaints from our residents when we did the reval. And believe me, if we did not decrease our mill rate, it would have been higher.
Thank you for sharing that. We have one question.
Actually, it's not really a question, but a statement. My name is Karen Bell. I specialize in navigating that process of home ownership. And for buyers and sellers, I work with Caldwell Banker. I'm also a nonprofit organization founder. And the question of home ownership in our community, and I have had many opportunities where programs through Liberty Bank and other companies have monies available for residents for first-time buyers. And we've had, I've worked with Pam Hippolyte with having information sessions for our folks to come out, and sometimes it's empty.
Yeah.
So sometimes the education is a great part of it, but we find that a lot of folks are not coming out when we have these opportunities for them. And you're right, there were monies out there, $10,000, $15,000 for first-time home buyers, and yet when we have these information sessions, they were hardly attended. By sometimes we had them online, Zoom, and people were not interested. We weren't sure why, but this is a question we've had over the past few years of why people are not attending these sessions, and monies were available for first-time buyers. So we couldn't find the connect. So if someone can help us, because I've worked with different mortgage companies, different organizations who had first-time buyer loan programs, grant programs where folks were not coming out. We'll send out flyers, we'll send out Zoom information, and people were not coming to take advantage. Yes, there are shortages of homes, but there are funds out there, and as a realtor, it was hard the past few years getting first-time buyers to take advantage of some of these programs. So it is a catch-22 where sometimes the monies are there for a time frame, and folks, that time frame will run out, and the monies go back to wherever they came from, or some of it, because people are not taking advantage of it. So if folks can tell us that disconnect.
I like to call those programs hidden gems. I'll tell you, target marketing is really critical to get the information to the people. And so sometimes, a newspaper article might work, a flyer might work, but I call it, it's useful marketing, but I call it old school marketing as well, right? Social media is where a lot of people get their information now, and I find that a lot of these programs, nonprofit organizations, even government, they don't utilize social media as much as they should. Or even employ a social media manager, like somebody who is well-versed in doing the social media work and getting the information out there to people, because there are a lot of different strategies that you could use. The algorithms matter. The demographic of people that you put on different commercials and ads matter, right? But there are people who are well-versed in doing this that could be doing this, but I find that a lot of times these programs oftentimes don't take that extra step at getting that information out to the folks. And so yes, I agree. Lots of flyers might go out. It depends on where the flyers are being disseminated as well, right? That's really important and critical. So I encourage programs like that, government, nonprofits even, because I call nonprofits hidden gems as well. I talk to so many people and I'm like, this nonprofit does this and that one does that. And they're like, I had no idea. I didn't even know they existed in my neighborhood. Yeah. Like Asylum Hill has a number, over 60, I think, nonprofits. Yeah. And half of them I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And so that's the important piece, is the messaging and the target messaging, knowing who your audience is, knowing how they're receiving their information, and making intentional strides towards, getting the information out there.
Good to know. I've
Yeah.
learned something.
All right, so that will wrap up. I actually did have a question for you around housing, but I understand that you need to leave.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'd love for us to share before we close is that a key aspect to empowering the community is ensuring that they exercise their right to vote, to elect who represents their interests, to your point, and the town clerk plays a critical and vital role in overseeing this process. There's a relationship between the town clerk and the registrar of voters and town committees. And so I don't know if you have a opportunity to respond to how that relationship works and what you do as it relates to the elections. But that would be really important. But my question really was, what measures is your office taking to guarantee that elections remain secure, fair, accessible, and eligible for all voters?
Sure. I mean, just to sum up quickly, I know we're pressed for time. Starting yesterday, October 4th, per state statute, was the first day individuals can come into the town clerk's office and vote for the upcoming presidential election in November. So if you're going to be out of town, you're going to be busy, whatever the case might be, you can come into the office and you can cast your ballot. Furthermore, in conjunction with the Register of Voters office, there are 4 ballot boxes across the city of Hartford, key locations: City Hall, South End there at the South End Senior Center, Park and New Park, Parkville, and then there's one on Woodland and Albany. So what that is when you request your ballot through the town clerk's office, we will mail you that ballot. A couple different things there. You could fill it out, you can mail it back, or you could drop it in the drop box. As far as security and integrity go, a new law was passed the last session, which every ballot box in the state of Connecticut has to have some kind of video camera footage. So working with the police department and their camera system, we have all our ballot boxes monitored 24/7. If there's any issues, we can roll those back and see what the issue is there. That statute doesn't take effect until 2025, but we wanted to get ahead of the game and make sure that there's no issues with people questioning the integrity of the election, the ballot process. And listen, as Council President says, elections have consequences, and no greater consequences than this November. So we encourage everybody to get out and vote. The town clerk's office has some initiatives through community engagement with our mascot, BB the mascot. We show up for various events to try to drum up that support with Register of Voters. I think the last day to register will be sometime in October in person, and the online gets cut off a little sooner. But, like Council President said, all elections have consequences, nothing more consequential than this election. So please get out there and exercise your right to vote.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you to our mayor for joining us today. This was a really interesting and robust conversation, and we hope to speak with you all again in the very near future. Marianne?
Yes, and I'd like to thank everyone who has participated today, either virtually or in person. And special thanks to the mayor, to our council president, Shirley, and to Eric representing the town and city clerk's office. This was just the beginning of a dialogue, and there was so much relevant information provided today. And you will notice that those of you who are here in person, on your chairs there is contact information for each of the areas, and those of you online, it's available to you as well through the video. So again, thank you for all of you for participating and asking your great questions. And we have more of these to come. So if you've missed seeing the first one on the Registrar of Voters and the voting process, you can go to our website to actually view it again. Very good information. And we will have, this is the second in a series, and we have 10 more coming, both through the fall and into the spring and early summer. And we hope that you will join us. It is to give us more information about our city government, how it works for us, and how we can engage. And remember, there are boards and commissions where you can join to share your expertise and voice. And not only that, if you're interested, and there is training that can be available to you so that you can feel more comfortable in exercising your responsibilities relative to those positions. So again, I want to thank you today for joining us, and please join us again. Thank you so much, and have a great day.